Well, the decision's been made to resurrect the Macintosh. So to that end, I've been buying a few bits and pieces like new brake master cylinders. The old ones weren't worth refurbishing. Certainly not at the cost you can get them for. Calipers have been dismantled, cleaned up. They weren't too bad actually, and put back together. Lines haven't been bled yet. Just something else that I'll be doing in the future. The whole bike is getting an upgrade. So to that end, there's going to be Link ECU fitted, which will run the ignition only. Not obviously, but for the class you need to run the carburetor that the Z&R TCs came with, which is a bit of a pain in the ass, but that's the rules. Not that I'm ever going to race it again, but so anyway, it's been a stack of bit sport. New loom for the ECU. I already own the ECU. It's on my other little turbo bike. Wastegate's been dismantled, cleaned and refurbished. Carburetor's been cleaned and refurbished, sort of. There's an electric fuel pump rather than the system we used to run where we pressurized the fuel tank. This is a very solid steel tank with reinforcing all inside it. So we used to run the tank at about 5 psi through a regulator and a little fire trap. Looking back on it, not a good idea. Anyway, so we're going to run an ECU on this, and 4 LS style ignition coils, and the fuel pump, and the ECU, and a few other things. I'm going to need electricity. So to that end, I've got the aluminium plate, got a little boss which is going to have a seal on the inside. So this is all fitted, machined up. Could have welded it, but that would have distorted the plate more than likely, so didn't want to do that. But I need electricity, so I bought this stator and this matching rotor, and there's a matching reg around somewhere, and beautifully the taper is exactly the same as a Z1 crank, so it fits straight on. The only trouble is this is facing in the wrong direction, so I'm in the process of popping the rivets out that hold it all together, and we'll probably just machine the outside down, possibly make up a new bit to go on the outside of the boss that the rotor will then be riveted back onto, but facing the other way, so it should work. The stator mounts onto here, and it's possibly just a little bit tight, but I sort of left room to put like a 2mm washer around this bit. There's a couple of reasons for that, but anyway, rather than making it taller, though, I wanted a washer. So, and it'll locate on this area here, so it's all lined up beautifully. Yeah, but how do you get these rivets out without destroying it? The holes, not to worry about this much, because I'll probably be machining all of that off except for the boss in the middle, but the holes on this side need to be 10mm, which is the size they are. Don't want to drill a hole sort of somewhere out the side here, so I come up with a little plan which seems to be working. So what I came up with was this little piece to align this with the tool. So when I go through, it's in the middle. Now I looked at how this was machined, and I figured that the recess for the rivets and the hole where the rivets go are concentric. So what I did was machined up this little piece which fits in here, and it's a reasonably good fit in the hole. You gotta make sure you've got not too much swarf in there, and then I just drop this down in the hole, clamp this in position, and then do final adjustments with the XY adjustments to get it so that this will slide up and down in there without basically touching the sides of this hole, and then locking the table in place. So this column ends up perfectly lined up with the bore of the rivet. Then I just basically drill and bore it out. Seems to be working real good so far. So this is it set up, clamped down with the table locked, with the spindle lined up with the bore. Now, ideally I would have lined up on the actual, had a tool to line up on the actual bore where the head of the rivet is, but I don't have a tool that exact size. So I machined up this, which is that exact size, or give or take a very small amount. Pop that in there, and I can just lower this down. Oh, if I get another hand down here, and it just slides in and out. So this hole was actually made using this carbide, or finished off using this carbide. So it's size for size, and it just slides in and out. If you're holding the if you're holding this piece in, you can't actually feel any sense of scraping or touching. So it's pretty much lined up on the rivet. So I should be able to cut this out now, and it won't get into the sides of the hole. So far so good. All right, ready to put the center in for the drill, which isn't a problem. Now to drill the hole all the way through, this drills about 8mm, I think, maybe a bit less. Oh no, it is a bit less, yeah, but 7.5mm, doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter as long as it's not too big. So drills, I find that, especially after I've sharpened them, don't tend to go through exactly straight. They're not too bad, but not straight. And also not the ideal size, which is why I use the use an end mill to a fresh end mill to make a hole that's exactly the size I want, which in this case is 10mm, which is the size of the rivet. Also, one of the reasons I wanted to use this rotor is because it has the teeth on the outside with 2 missing, so that tells the ECU where the crank is in its rotation. I'm not putting a cam trigger on it, so it will be still firing a waste spark despite having individual coils. They'll actually be fired in pairs, just like it's always been. So this rotor will generate electricity, plus it will provide the trigger. So this is a 10mm end mill. Hopefully, with what I've done previous, it's all lined up, and it only has to take 2mm out of the hole, a little bit over, but that's no big deal. So it's a matter of pushing it through, and you can see it cuts really nice. Right at the end, it actually spins the rivet. That one was the worst one, actually. It spins the rivet, and the top of it just ends up being trapped on the end mill, and there's just a residue of the actual rivet itself thin remains. So yeah, it works really well. Here's the part of the rivet that was on this side. So we're bored down to using the 10mm end mill. As you can see, there's a very, very thin part of the stud left on one side and none on the other. So it may have been touching the hole a little bit when the end mill came through. But you know, when these rivets are pressed to, they will actually expand in the hole a bit. So that tiny little whisker that's taken off isn't going to make any difference. And the actual fact, the new piece that this rotor gets riveted to is going to locate the rotor on this diameter in here. So the actual holes won't make too much difference as long as the rivets are tight and holding it in place. Stop it rotating on the boss. This center piece, or a new bit on machine and put on, is what's going to locate this rotor. Going by lessons learnt on the FZR, this thing won't be balanced. There is no obvious balance holes. It's not spinning anything like what the FZR does, but I'm going to still balance it anyway. Yeah.